So our next talk is by Radhe Sharda, who's a Senior Vice President at Reliance Jio. So Radhe, thanks a lot for agreeing to talk. So I'll give you a brief introduction if you can give me a minute.
Sure.
So Radhe Shyam Sharda is Senior Vice President, Technology Development at Reliance Jio, India. Radhe has more than 2 decades of experience in the telecom sector, during which he has worked across domains spanning technology strategy, products and solutions, market dynamics, systems and RF engineering, and technology trainings. In prior assignments, Radhe has worked in India and North America with technology companies, operators, and consultants. So with this brief introduction, I'd like to thank Radhe for agreeing to give a talk at this event, and I'll invite him to go ahead with this talk.
Thank you, Mr. Rajesh. Am I audible?
Yes, Radhe, yes.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to thank IIT Kanpur and IEEE for inviting Jio in this winter school event. And also thanks to Mr. Rajesh for introducing me. So let me share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Radhe, yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. So my presentation is titled 5G and its potential to catalyze India's digital journey. And in next about 20 minutes, I plan to share a perspective on 5G, including technology, use cases, network architecture, and how 5G will bring opportunities to India. So let me go to my kind of first slide. I start with a snapshot of 5G global update. I'm sure all of us would be aware that 5G commercial launch, the first set of commercial launch happened in April 2019. And by end of 2019, about 61 networks were commercial in 34 countries. And if we look at the current snapshot based on the source GSA, we see that by December 2020, 135 networks are commercial in 58 countries. So essentially, we can say that in a 1 year time frame, the number of commercial networks have doubled. And from that perspective, we can say that 5G commercialization has accelerated. That is for sure. Again, looking at a region-wise summary, we can see that the number of commercial network in APEC region is 35. In EMEA region, the number of commercial network is 85, while in Americas, it is 15. And I'm sharing a partial list of commercial networks in this slide. Now, one more perspective that I want to share is that while the commercialization has accelerated, but at the same time, if we look at the number of LTE networks today, there is more than 800 public LTE networks. And if I have to compare with the number of LTE network, I would say that we are still at the beginning of the 5G era, basically. So before moving forward, let me share some of the 5G design goals and general service requirements. These spider diagrams, I'm sure that they are quite, people would be quite familiar with these spider diagrams. So on the left side spider diagram, I share 8 key attributes of 5G and compare it with LTE Advanced. And we can clearly see that 5G is basically expanding all the capabilities of LTE Advanced by order of magnitude. I'll not go into the details of each and every attribute, but just to summarize, if we look at the 3 key attributes which I have shown at the bottom left of the slide, that 5G targets 20x capacity compared to LTE Advanced, and 10x user experience, and 1/10th air interface latency. Now, these are quite a tough, stringent target, I would say. But having said that, these capabilities would enable 5G to kind of expand beyond the mobile broadband, which is the forte of 4G, into a set of services which we call as diverse set of services or long tail services having different requirements to be served in the same network. On the right side, I am sharing the three key scenarios, the 5G service scenarios, which I'm sure most of us are familiar with. The first one is EMBB, or Enhanced Mobile Broadband, which is more of an expansion of 4G MBB. The second one is URLLC, which is a new category of service in 5G, and it basically focuses on low latency, high mobility, and high reliability. And the third category is MMTC, or Massive Machine Type Communication. Again, I would say that to some extent it is an expansion of the current IoT technologies, but at the same time, it basically expands the current IoT technologies both in terms of scale and capabilities. So in MMTC, we'll have NB-IoT as well, but at the same time, we'll have new air interface enhancements, such as one is NR Lite, the new radio Lite, which will basically be a stripped down version of the LTE of the 5G NR technology to support certain aspects which are more required from a IoT perspective, such as like longer battery life, better coverage. However, in certain cases, you may not need the kind of throughput and channel bandwidth support that you otherwise need for EMBB. That might not be required for IoT. So those things are kind of stripped down, and at the same time, certain aspects are enhanced in NR Lite. So these are some of the service scenarios for 5G. Now, the key point that I want to share here is that these capabilities, the new services and the capabilities, they bring 5G at the center of the ICT technologies. So I'm pretty sure that we have seen the ITU triangle several times, and the vertex of the triangle, they represent the service scenarios. But if we move along from one vertex to the other along the side, then we see that certain aspects start to change from one service to another. So for example, if we move from EMBB towards URLLC, we would see that the latency starts to get priority. So in a sense, I would say that while we talk about three scenarios, there is actually a number of blended services, and therefore there is a multiplicity of services. So we are talking about large count of services that would be supported by the 5G network. Now, talking about capabilities, we do see that 5G indeed has some of the key capabilities which make it at the center of the other ICT technologies, whether we call about AR, VR, or AI or IoT. Some of the key points that I would like to share is, for example, 5G capacities would be 25x compared to LTE, and this is one comparison that is with reference to 20 megahertz LTE bandwidth and 100 megahertz 5G channel bandwidth. So it is already native for massive data. It can support massive data. The second is it's native for high experience, given that we can easily support more than 10x user experience in 5G compared to 4G. Again, the latencies, the end-to-end latencies in 5G network would be pretty low, about 10x latency reduction compared to 4G. So that makes it native for AR, VR. Again, 5G data throughput is comparable to fiber in some sense, at least from an end user perspective. The throughput that is being delivered, let's say over FTTH, 5G is expected to deliver similar data throughput. So from that perspective, we can call that 5G is native for FMC. And again, having like lot of stuff has been talked about edge. So with the capability of edge and massive connection support, 5G is indeed native for IoT and AI. So in a sense, we can say that there is quite a lot of synergy between 5G and other cutting edge technologies. And this synergy will drive new scenarios. So let me kind of switch gear from here. And I would like to say that when we talk about 4G, in 4G, we mainly focused on B2C or consumer services. But in 5G, we'll focus on services which are in the domain of business to home and business to business and business to vertical. So here I'm pretty much sharing some of the new applications for industry scenario. And in this slide, I have shown the three layers that I would like to explain in terms of how we will build services for different industry scenarios. So if you look at the bottom layer, that basically illustrates the capabilities of 5G. Earlier, I talked about the capabilities more from radio interface perspective, but here in this particular slide, I talk about the capabilities more from an end-to-end perspective. The bottom layer defines the capabilities, and the middle layer defines the applications, which basically will make use of one or more capabilities. So if I have to take some example, like live broadcast, it will make use of uplink data throughput in the range of about 20 to 100 Mbps. So 20 Mbps is a typical throughput requirement for 4K type of video, while 100 Mbps is typical requirement for 8K type of video. So we can see that uplink throughput is one of the requirement for live broadcast. At the same time, it might also require high mobility. So basically, taking these two capabilities, we can support live broadcast as an example. Similarly, if I talk about video surveillance, so again, mobility might be a requirement in the case of mobile surveillance. Then in certain cases, cloud-based AI is required because we would like to bring intelligence to the camera. For example, we would like to, let's say, use application like facial recognition, etc. And of course, we would like to put huge number of cameras. So anywhere between 4 to 16 Mbps would be required for each camera. That means we would, taking together, need to support high data rate requirement. And most of it, again, if we look at from camera perspective, it is uplink centric. Likewise, we have AR/MR, which would require low latency and high bandwidth. UAV, which we pretty much know about drone, and it would require mobility and uplink bandwidth. Remote control could be another interesting use case from an industry perspective, and it will require low bidirectional latency and low packet loss. So there are many more applications, and I've listed a few more here. Now, interestingly, if I move from here to the top layer, the application will map to industry scenario. Now, in certain scenario, it could just be one application mapping to one industry scenario, but in certain other cases, it could be more than one application. So let me take a few example here. The first one is live broadcast. It will directly map to media, for example. Now, typically today we see a large kind of van, broadcast van, which are basically moved to different places where some event happen, and they have satellite dish on top of it. So it's kind of very big, and then it's costly as well. If we have to compare with respect to the capability that 5G will bring, so in 5G we can potentially put a backpack with a CPE at this point in time, or in future. Indeed, we do not even need a CPE. A camera can come with a built-in module, and with that we can do the live broadcasting in a high resolution, whether it is 4K or 8K. If I have to take another example, let's take the example of smart port. So in the case of smart port, we typically would have several number of cranes, gantry cranes and rubber tired cranes, etc. And a person would, let's say, operate the crane remotely. So essentially, we would require application like remote control. We would also require a number of cameras because the crane and the associated container, etc., need to be monitored by the operator. At the same time, in a port type of scenario, we would require video surveillance, and in certain cases, we would require UAV, etc., for drone inspection. So essentially, we can say that a number of these applications would basically constitute a port use case scenario. Likewise, the application from middle layer, a combination of them would constitute different industry scenario. So that's how we would basically build multiple application, and then from multiple application, we'll come up with multiple scenarios. So after talking about use case, now let me come to the 5G key technology building block. So for sure, if we look at 5G, the center of 5G is new radio. But new radio is not just it's not just new radio which is 5G. 5G is much beyond new radio, and that's where I would like to put forward some of the other key technology building blocks. So if we look at other key technology building blocks, I would say that cloud native architecture is one important aspect of 5G. Then 5G core, which is based on service-based architecture. Edge and slicing is very important to enable industry use cases. Quite a lot has already been spoken about edge since morning. And then, of course, AI/ML is important for automation and intelligent O&M. Finally, IoT is one of the key use case scenarios of 5G. So in next few minutes, let me try to talk about some of the aspects of 5G technology building blocks. I'll start with radio interface technology building blocks. So if we look at radio interface technology building block, in the first line, I have showcased some of the key technologies which are primarily focusing on capacity and user experience. The first one is larger bandwidth. So unlike LTE, which is supporting 20 megahertz channel bandwidth, 5G has got two frequency ranges, FR1 and FR2. So sub 6 gigahertz is FR1. So FR1 will support 100 megahertz channel bandwidth, while a millimeter wave will support 400 megahertz. So that's kind of a 5 to 20 times increase. Then the second key technology is Massive MIMO, and Massive MIMO will use multi-user beamforming and exploit the space domain isolation to increase the capacity by about 5 times. Now, in certain cases, Massive MIMO is also, it has also been deployed in 4G, but 5G has natively been designed for Massive MIMO. So from that perspective, there will be more ubiquitous deployment of Massive MIMO in 5G. Other two technology that I'm sharing here in the first line, one is filtered OFDM, which will make better spectral localization and thus reduce the guard band requirement for 5G. So as we would be aware that in LTE, 10% of the spectrum goes towards guard band, but in 5G, it's going to reduce anywhere between 2 to 5%. And the fourth technology is CRS free. So in LTE, we require cell reference signals, which consumes a lot of REs as overhead. But in the case of NR, we do not require the CRS. If I go down in the second line, mixed numerology would be used for RAN slicing, and then self-contained slot would be used for providing low latency services. And LDPC polar code are the new coding schemes for data and control channel for 5G. And finally, on 5G device front, high power UE is one of the device type that would be supporting 26 dBm. So it would basically support better coverage, and at the same time, it will support higher uplink performance. And the other key aspect is that most of the 5G devices will have 4 receive antennas, so it will support higher order single user MIMO. So these are some of the key technology building blocks of 5G. Now let me also share about the architectural aspect. If we look at 5G, I would say that cloud native is one of the key aspect of 5G. And among other key building blocks, if we look at cloud native would basically be key to support service agility and end-to-end slicing. Basically in 5G era, we need to move to much more horizontal, cloud-centric, agile platform model of delivering network. So the network should be a piece of software that will ride on a platform rather than a collection of boxes that are typically being used in the context of the current network. So instead of looking at radio access network as a domain, core as a domain, and maybe these are different silos, these essentially would become services that would be delivered on top of a cloud platform. And so essentially it will go from vertical siloed approach to a horizontal cloud-centric platform approach. Now, as the cloud platform delivers a consistent infra layer, so it can span across all the domains and enables us to get the benefit of programmability and automation. Thus, with containerized and microservice-oriented and orchestrated cloud-native platform, we'll be able to bring service agility and also including end-to-end slicing for supporting different service scenarios. And that is indeed one of the key promises of 5G. As I mentioned about cloud native aspect, which is very important, the other key aspect which is very important is the open, disaggregated and interoperable radio network architecture in the case of 5G. The architecture that I've shown in this page is taken from Oran Alliance website. And this architecture is basically very contrary to the traditional radio network architecture. If we look at traditional radio network architecture, it is basically consisting of proprietary hardware with closed interfaces across different building blocks. So we can call it more like a black box. And that has actually constricted the innovation for last few decades. Another key aspect is that in 5G, some of the services that I have been talking about, and I'm sure that there are many more, but at the same time, since we are at the beginning of 5G era, so some of the services are known and some are still not known, which means that in 5G era, we need a sort of flexible and programmable architecture. And to that effect, cloud native is a key aspect. And at the same time, we need it from a RAN perspective also. Basically, we believe that through open, disaggregated, and programmable radio network approach, O-RAN can actually bring automation, service agility, and cloud scale economics. The other key aspect is that O-RAN will also lower the entry barrier for new player, because today, if we look at the black box approach, one particular player need to sort of have competency on each and every aspect, including the hardware, software, and everything. But in a disaggregated approach, typically a player can have a smaller play, and the different building blocks will interoperate to make the entire solution. So we at Jio, we are very strong believer of O-RAN, and we think that O-RAN has potential to transform the RAN ecosystem. Now, I would definitely like to reiterate, although a lot has been spoken about Edge, but as Edge is an important part of 5G, and it will open new enterprise and vertical industry scenarios. In this page, I just share some of the industry scenarios related to Edge, including some of the vertical scenarios like live broadcast, campus, education, healthcare, gaming, etc. Another key aspect which Edge will enable is basically it will simplify devices, and that's an important aspect. So Edge and cloud would basically offload the device from doing a lot of heavy processing, and a lot of the big data, GPU rendering, AI, cloud computing, etc. will move to the Edge and cloud. And from that perspective, the devices can be more thin client type of devices. This will actually reduce the cost of device and make devices more affordable. And we think that this will become a trend, and this type of device, we can loosely call it sort of a cloud terminal, would basically unveil a different model, and it will make some of these use cases much more easy to implement. So after talking about technology and use cases, now I would like to come to the context of India. So in India context, I would like to share a little bit about the NDCP key goals for a digitally empowered economy and society. So the key goals that we can see from NDCP is 50 Mbps universal broadband connectivity, 50% household with broadband access. These are the two goals, key goals, I would say, for consumer and for homes. Then we have 5 billion connected IoT ecosystem and accelerating transition to Industry 4.0. These are again key goals from the perspective of society and industry. And then training 1 million people for new age skills and creating 4 million additional jobs in digital communication sector. So these are also again key goals from the perspective of new skills and employment. Now we believe that 5G along with the cutting edge ICT technologies are the way forward basically to achieve these goals. Now I just showcase here some of the key industry segments and their market size. It's more of an estimated market size by 2022. We all are very much aware that recent pandemic has impacted the economy, and but at the same time we believe that digital can reduce the impact and catalyze the growth of these sectors. And thus digital can act as a key impetus to the traditional economy. So if we look at the lockdown period, the COVID lockdown period, indeed, digital has actually, the telecom segment itself has kind of enabled about 30 to 35% of GDP in an indirect way. And as we move forward, there are so many technologies which are maturing at the same time, like 5G, AI, cloud, and IoT, etc. And a combination of these technologies will enable newer transformations. So we believe that it's a time when a lot of technologies which are maturing at the same time will create newer, powerful transformation. In this page, I am just sharing some of the use cases from an India market perspective. which would basically help to accelerate India's digital journey. And it's by no means a very comprehensive list. But having said that, some of the key use cases like fixed wireless access will increase the home broadband penetration. Cloud-based services will help work from home. Digital Sky is a set of drone-based application which will help in different industry segments, including agriculture. It will help in precision farming, surveillance, etc. Telemedicine will help to kind of take the quality medication specialist reach to mass market, including rural. Then assisted reality will help in smart productivity, smart manufacturing, smart grid. They will help in increased economic output and reduce waste and increase efficiency. And then, of course, smart city will help in more connected and digitalized smart utilities. So these and many more use cases will accelerate India's digital journey. With that, I come to the last page where I would like to say that collaboration across multiple stakeholders is key. So unlike 4G, which was mainly focusing on the consumer segment, 5G will focus on business to business and business to vertical segment. So from a vertical industry perspective, we actually need to have collaboration across industries, academia, and government. And with collaboration, we'll be able to sort of achieve these use cases. At the same time, there are industries and industry associations. They also need to come together. So with that, we'll be able to sort of achieve many use cases which will help to accelerate India's digital journey. With that, I conclude my talk. Thank you very much. And I'm willing to take questions if there is any. Mr. Rajesh, can you hear me?
Yes, Radhe. Sorry for that. My video and microphone were muted. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, yeah, thanks a lot, Radhe, for giving Reliance Jio's perspective and your nice talk on 5G and other related areas. So there are, I was not many questions, but there was one question which I see here. I'll pose it to you and maybe you can try and answer that. So the question is the adoption of eSIM gaining traction and how can it transform the 5G network?
Yeah, so what we believe is indeed it will gain traction, and it is indeed gaining traction more from the perspective of IoT type of use cases, wherein it need to be sort of embedded into the device. And I think it will, at the time of 5G era, as we see that 5G is pretty much starting with eMBB. But having said that, as URLLC and MMTC use cases catch up, eSIM will gain more and more traction.
So thanks a lot, Radhe. The last question which many people want to know is when will Jio launch 5G in India? So I would say that I'm sure that all of us would be familiar that in India, the first phase of 5G is expected to happen in C-band spectrum, which is new spectrum, and that spectrum potentially will get auctioned in 2021 timeframe. And assuming that it is auctioned in 2021 timeframe, I would assume that 5G in India is also going to start in the 2021 timeframe. So next year we can expect, yeah. So Professor Karandikar, you have any comments?
No, I don't have any. That's it.